you were willing to do whatever it takes to be a physical man. Because if you couldn't be a physical man, was it your suicidal thoughts? Was like, okay, then there's no other solution. I have to be a physical man. Was that kind of where that anxiety and depression kind of led you to? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I when I was at BYU Idaho going to school after I served my mission for the church, I confided with my uncle a lot. My uncle's gay, and so he was the only person in my family I felt like I could really talk to, who wouldn't judge me, who would accept me for who I was. And I had to call him multiple times a week because I had attempted to take my life a couple times when I was up at BYUI,
Mm.
and I was extremely high risk. Um, and at that point, it was just I felt so helpless because I knew the way that I felt, and I had felt the way that I'd felt the whole 21 years of life up to that point that I had. And it seemed so hopeless to me. Life was so hopeless. It was like the next step for me was to marry a man,
Mm.
to become a wife, and then a mother, to have children. And all of that just like made me feel really sick because that was like, that's not who I am. Um, and I felt like this is the only path for me. Like I'm supposed to do this in order to make my family happy, to make the church happy, to make God happy. Like, but why am I not happy? I'm freaking miserable. And I didn't see a way out. Um,
Hmm.
and the only thing that I saw was you either follow this path or you die, because I was like, the thought of following that path really made me sick. It really made me feel sick, sick to my stomach, miserable. I did not want to be alive. Um, and it's interesting because I was always more depressed when I realized that nothing was going to change.
Mm.
I remember when I was a kid, I had a conversation with my mom, and we were talking about depression, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have depression. I don't get depressed." And she was like, "Yes, you do. You get depressed. You have depression." Um,
Mm.
and I didn't realize that that's what I was feeling, because I was feeling it the time, all the time.
Mm.
Um, and it got really bad when I was younger because I used to, I used to pray every night to God and beg Him to turn me into a boy. I would beg Him to change me into like a male body, because I felt like there was a mix up. Something happened. Like, why is my male spirit inside of a female body? So I used to beg Him and pray every single night to change me into a boy in the morning. And I would wake up every morning and check. Nothing had changed. My body was the same. Everything was the same. I looked in the mirror to see if anything had changed. Nothing had changed, because I really truly believed that He could do anything. And when nothing changed, I felt like, wow, okay, God hates me,
Mm.
and He's like, I'm attracted to girls, and I'm also a boy in a girl's body. He really must hate me, and that just like really hit my self esteem. That's where like my depression escalated, and I tried to take my life for the first time when I was 14 years old because of that. And after that experience, I faked it. I did try to blend in, fit in, tried to be the cookie cutter perfect Mormon daughter. And it only carried me through till I was um 21 years old, because at that point it was like, I am so miserable. I'm going to die unless I do something to save myself, because no one else wants to help me, and no one else wants me to be happy. They all want me to follow this path that just does not fit. It does not resonate with me. I cannot do it. And I tried to date men for a really long time, and it was not working. I tried very hard to be happy in a female body, and it was not working. So it was really, for me, it was life or death.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I am just so grateful that things turned out for the better, and you're here, and y- you are your authentic self. So,
I
um
to go back to what you were saying about the therapist,
mhm.
that yes, people need to look for the right therapist, because when I did decide, like, I know I'm trans, and I know that I need to transition. Yeah, I need to transition. I went to the therapist I was seeing at BYU Idaho, because she was
Mm.
helping me. She was trying to help me not be attracted to girls, because I was like attracted to all these girls, like
Oh.
around my apartment and everything, and I was really struggling.
Hmm.
Telling her, look, I'm still attracted to women, um, and I'm trans, and I want to transition. And she told me, well, if that's the direction that you want to go, I can't help you. And then she just didn't say anything, and like,
Yeah.
I walked out the door. Like, that was it. She didn't refer me to anyone. She
Yeah.
basically like gave up on me, and was just like, I can't help you with that. And that was like the day that I tried to take my life again, because I was like, wow, everyone's giving up on me. There's no help. I was lost. I had no resources. I didn't know who to reach out to. And then when the attempt failed, that's when I like had this wake up call, where it was like, you have to save yourself, because no one else is going to do it. And
Mhm.
then that's when I went out, and I came out to my bishop, and I told him, hey, this is who I am, and I want to pursue my transition. And he actually like gave me his blessing. He was like, this is between you and God. This is very personal. So
Mhm.
do what you feel like you need to do for yourself. And then that's when I left. I left the school, and I moved down to Utah, and then that's where I transitioned. And my transition freaking saved my life.
Wow. Yeah, so it was definitely the right thing to do. And it sounds like your bishop, I was hearing about him in a previous podcast, that he sounded quite progressive and very understanding. So I am just curious, how involved are you nowadays? I think you mentioned it off the air, but I guess for anyone in our audience who's curious, how involved are you nowadays with the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter Day Saints?
Yeah. Um, I am. I was very active when I lived in Utah, um, and then I slowly just started to stop going, because I could only go for so long without people asking me questions. Like, I could go and sit down, and the brothers, they would come up to me, and they would ask, like, would you like to help us pass the sacrament? And I was like, I can't. I don't have the priesthood. I'm not allowed to. And then
Mm-hmm.
they would, give me a look, because it was like, oh, well, you're this age, you should have it. Why don't you have it? Or did you do something wrong? Like, there's this,
Mm.
if you say no, then they know that, like, you did something, so you don't have it anymore, or you're not allowed to do it. And that's like, it's just like, okay, what did you do? Or why can't you? And then they start asking questions like, okay, well, do you want to get the priesthood and stuff? But it's like, I'm not allowed to, because I'm trans. So
Oh, sorry. If I can just pause right there. I know what like a sacrament is in Catholicism, but
mm,
for your church, for our audience members who don't know, do you mind explaining what handing out the sacrament is?
yeah, the brethren in the church, they hand out the bread and the water, and
Mm, okay.
it symbolizes like Jesus Christ's body and his blood.
Okay.
uh, and it's blessed every Sunday, and then they pass it to the congregation. And I was asked multiple times if I could help pass it out, but I had to say no, because I don't have the priesthood that the men get in the church.
Okay.
um and then also, it was like, I'd go to the classes, and I was always very open with my bishop. My bishops always knew that I was trans. I wanted them to know that. I didn't want them to be surprised. Um, so I was allowed to go to the men's classes and everything, but then the guys would try to get to know me, and I couldn't like tell them similar stories from their like from my childhood that would match theirs because I was raised and conditioned socially as a woman.
Yeah.
So I was very uncomfortable in social situations trying to relate to these guys because I didn't have the same experiences growing up. I didn't go to young men's, I went to young women's. I didn't go to boys camp, I went to girls camp. You know, I didn't have the same experiences. So I felt very out of place. And it eventually would come out when people tried to get to know me and tried to become my friends. Uh, my past would come up. And a lot of people were very nice about it, but then it was just like I'd go in and sit down in a pew and I knew people were watching me and looking at me. And
Mm.
you know, it was like I couldn't sit in the pew and just feel the spirit. I couldn't just focus on the messages. I couldn't feel good. And it ended up becoming it felt very toxic for me. It was like I dreaded going to church. And I hated that because I used to love going to church and feeling close to God. So I stopped going and I started just like going up in the mountains and going hiking and being in nature. And that's how I felt close to God. And then I moved out to California and I tried going to church there and it was kind of the same thing. It was just like I couldn't feel completely comfortable. Um, so yeah, I don't go right now. I'm not going. I'd rather not deal with the judgment. I'd rather not deal with like I've had a lot of amazing leaders who have been like, we see you as our brother. You should be able to go to all the men's classes. But the higher ups in the church have yet to accept trans people,
Mm.
LGBT people in general, to be fully accepted and be able to participate in everything that the church does. And that's where I'm still at. I don't want to be half in, half out. I want to be able to fully participate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't foresee myself really going back until the day comes when they finally say, "Oh, okay, we call ourselves Christians. We should love and accept everyone the way that Christ did. So if you're LGBTQ, you should come worship. You should be able to participate in all the activities everybody else does. You should be able to go to the temple like everybody else does." Um, and until that happens, I honestly don't foresee myself going back. And that probably will never happen because the church is very it's I don't want to say anything bad about the church because I do love the church and I love how I was raised,
Mm-hmm.
because I really believe that being raised in the church contributed to the kind of person that I am today. But they the church is very toxic when it comes to LGBTQ members. And it doesn't make sense because they call themselves Christians, the Church of Jesus Christ, and yet they don't treat everyone the way that Christ did. They don't accept everyone the way that Christ did. So it's just
Yeah.
really
Yeah, I mean, that seems to have similar echoes with other religions in terms of their stance on LGBTQ, views. And yeah, I mean, I have a friend who's was part of the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter Day Saints, and his father just kind of he hasn't didn't show up to his wedding when he married a man, and it's very heartbreaking stuff. And I can just imagine, especially since you were involved since you were around 4, that it even if you don't agree with everything that they teach, it's just the community aspect and the people that you grew up with, like having to let go of that must be really tough.
oh yeah,
So yeah.
the whole losing a whole community like that, it's really hard because I that's just a whole group of people that I no longer really communicate with. And I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends though who have still stuck by my side, like they support me and love me, that I used to go to church with, but I don't get to go every Sunday and see my friends. I don't get to,
Mm.
feel like I'm part of this community anymore.